Hello there and welcome. I'm Raymond Goh and we'd like to welcome you to Viewpoint live from Studio 7. Now, in the last couple of nights on the show, we've had a thorough look at the political landscape, the candidates, as well as campaigning methods of the 14th general election. Tonight, however, we'll be discussing issues related to youth. And to discuss further on the topic, we have independent analyst Professor Dr. Hu Ki-peng, as well as Izana Saleh, co-founder of Project Girls for Girls, with us this evening. Welcome to the studio, to both of you.
Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Raymond.
Now, according to the Election Commission, almost 6 million young voters will cast their votes for the very first time. And this constitutes about 34% of the total voters in Malaysia. Before we dive deeper into the discussion, let's take a look at this. So that's one of the questions. How will Malaysian youth vote? However, here's some figures for you. There are nearly 15 million voters and 41% or over 6 million are youths aged between 21 and 40. The question to both our guests tonight is, of this 6 million, how important are they and how influential are they in the upcoming elections? Perhaps we can start with Prof.
I think most of the times, 30 elections, the only significant one was the last election. Before that, I don't think the youth has been important.
All right. You agree with that, Izana?
Well, as someone who's going in to vote for the second time.
Second time, yes.
Firstly, I'm very excited at being able to extend my say and my right. And definitely, I think now youth vote's very crucial to either political parties that's looking at it.
All right. Now, let's analyze the youth, because of this 15 million young voters, we can actually break them up into different sub-age groups. Let's start perhaps with those who are 21 to 25.
First-time voters.
First-time voters,
Second-time
yes.
voter, third-time voter,
Yeah.
fourth-time voters.
So the 26 to 30 would be second-time voters, 31 to 35 would be third-time voters.
Right.
Let's start with the first-time voters.
I think for the Chinese,
Yeah.
I'm not sure the Malay, generally apathetic, not interested.
Okay. We'll talk about why they're apathetic.
Yes.
All right. What about the second group? Those second-time
They are
voters, just
disappointed.
like Izana here.
They're disappointed. Chinese again. They're disappointed when they're overseas, they won't come back. They've lost their hope because last election, they came in a big number. You know, turned out to be 85%. They voted against Barisan, hoping kali ini tukar. Never happened. Because the Malay youth voted for Barisan, 61%. Chinese 90% voted against Barisan. So they have lost. So in simple theory, it means this is the collapse of the expectation.
So based on what you just said, Prof, which age group per se would be actually influential in this general election?
These first two groups
We know that Izana is going to vote. She's going to exercise for the second time. So she will definitely have an effect on this election. So which...
Of course, you see, for the Malays, last election, remember, it was the first time in history, Chinese population at that time was 24.5. But the voting population was near the 35% more. This election, I believe, this is registration. So more Malay youth registered to become voters, so it's even balanced up. Since last election, more Malay youth voted for Barisan. This time, maybe because of Dr. Mahathir and other factors, they may change perception. For the Chinese, this second group of people, most of them got disappointed.
Okay, now I'd like to touch perhaps a little bit about what influences a young voter on their inclination towards who to vote for, whether it's a candidate or party. You're a second-time voter. My question to you would be, do you lean towards your family's choice, your peers, your colleagues? What influences you?
I think for my age group, you actually take in a mix of all of those. Generally, if politics is something, it's a topic of heated topic of conversation sometimes at home, then definitely opinions will be taken into consideration. But it's not the deciding factor. Those who are going in as second-time voters are mature enough, have got sufficient experience to analyze, and they will be reading articles online, and they will be, of course, looking at social media. They will be attending the charamas that's taking place everywhere, as we can see now, and they will be making an informed decision. However, what's really important to sort of put out there is that the critical thinking skills, because with the advancement of technology and all sorts of rampant news that's online, one must be extremely careful with what you digest in terms of the information you're reading. It's extremely easy to falsify information. It's extremely easy to, quote-unquote, create fake news. And so for those in my group who are going to vote, we must think very carefully. What is the intent when certain pieces of news coming out? Is it true or not? Can this actually contribute to long-term growth of the country we are inheriting from our leaders?
Would you say that more young people today are following in your footsteps in addressing this and analyzing whatever information they get? Do you get this feeling?
Certainly in the urban community. And I wouldn't, to be honest with you, I wouldn't say it's an urban-rural divide because technology is rampant now in Malaysia, almost everywhere. And pretty much we do not separate from our smartphone.
I can see it's still here.
It's still here, precisely. I don't carry notes anywhere. My laptop's not to be seen, but that is my life right there. And majority of young voters today, whether it's the first or second time, do depend on the news that we get, whether real or fake.
All right, my next question is with regard to what DAP veteran Lim Kit Siang said. He has actually called for a youth tsunami to sweep the opposition into parliament, okay? Is this a realistic call? I'm sorry?
Reason?
Yes.
Lim Kit Siang has created Kampung Tsunami. Liu Jingtong created Johor Tsunami. Muhyiddin created Tsunami Rakyat. And then Lim Kit Siang also said Tsunami Wanita Sabah. I cannot understand. 20 terms, tsunami, all bullshit. So he's talking about youth. Just look at those MDAP gatherings for the last 2 months. Those years, 505, last election, you got 60, 70,000 people in Hanjang, in Skudai. Today, you know, even 8,000, 10,000. The day Skudai, 7,000, 8,000. It's only a fraction, 10 to 15% what happened then. So the young people join those gatherings. Today, no. Hardly any.
All right, Prof. So what you're saying is the call by Lim Kit Siang has no effect whatsoever on the youth. That's exactly what you're saying.
They caused so many tsunamis. So who wants tsunami to follow him?
All right.
It's drowning tsunami.
Not real tsunami.
All right.
Woman tsunami.
Now, there's also talk among young people, and I know because I speak to young people all the time, and many of them have sort of distanced themselves from politics.
And
some of them actually are tired of it because they are being lambasted every day with messages, and they just give up. They don't know who to believe anymore. They don't have faith in any of the parties for that matter.
Yes.
I know you have some comments to make, but perhaps Izana can speak about this first. Do you find this happening as well with your peers?
I do, because Malaysians, we are so stuck on our WhatsApp, and the amount of videos, articles, pictures, accusations bombarding the million WhatsApp groups we're all involved in can really mess with how we think, which goes back to my earlier point. We must instill the ability to critically think about what are we reading, what do we want to read, and really question all of it. Also, I do recommend a detox from social media after the May 9th.
Take a short break. Right, good of you for still being with us. Thank you so much. Before we went for our break, our last question was about fatigue of young people with regard to politics and, of course, with the upcoming general elections. Apart from that, should both political parties be worried about this fatigue setting in on young people?
Not to them to choose. They can't do anything. Except Barisan. Khairi did a lot of things.
Yes.
Few hundred items for the youth. He did very well. But what the other group? So,
All right. Professor has a little bit of a flu, so we'll let you address that one, yeah? Okay.
but not with the Pakatan. There's no concentration, except maybe DAP.
All right, talking about what Khairi did, let's talk a little bit about what BN has done. For the first time ever, it's actually introduced a youth-dedicated manifesto. And in this manifesto, it addresses many areas, as Prof was trying to allude us to. They include employment opportunities, raising the income level of the young people,
Yes.
economic empowerment, assisting young families, getting their first home, starting families, and so forth. This is all fine and good. And how effective do you think this is in are the youth actually taking this manifesto as something which they can really aspire to and use it as a guide in a way to decide who they're going to vote for?
The question is for,
Both of you.
if I may
Right.
take this on. So I think if you are serious about voting, you must know the content of what you're voting for, not just go la-di-da because you like the color.
Or the sentiment.
Or the sentiment, right? You must go and understand the content before you pangkah your candidate. Now, if you look at the manifesto that BN has put forth, whether it's for youth, it's been amazing. Whether it's for wanita, it's very holistic. And we must look at what whether the manifesto offered, whether the items offered will care for the community in the long run. You want long-term gratification. You want to be able to grow your family if you're starting
Right.
new. You want to be able to get better education. You want to be able to be the top 20 country by 2050, for example. You must be able to have foresight to where you later on will take the country. Is the manifesto paired with what you're looking for, and not just
Good.
sweetness, you know?
Now let's talk, yes, Prof.
The fact prove it. Last election, 61% Malays voted for UMNO, Barisan.
Okay.
So this is important. Khairi's job, doing about 753 or 54 programs for the youth. It did a good job. So the voters, the young people responded and voted for. You check, the young voters did very well. Whereas Chinese the other way, they voted very well against Barisan.
Okay, let's touch on still on young people, but this time let's look at Felda settlers. As we all know, Felda settlers tend to be staunch supporters of BN. Okay, however, their subsequent generations, they were exposed to more things. They studied overseas, some in urban areas. They're exposed to different things. Has this changed the support you feel from these new young people?
Can I add?
Sure, Prof.
1999, Muhammad said, young fellas came back to Jelly, show the parent the laptop, Anwar Ibrahim. So they voted against UMNO. That was a huge tsunami, Malay tsunami. But last round, young fellas in Felda, they didn't go back and tell the parent to vote against UMNO. Even the generation already happened 20 years ago. So young fellas who come back, who are going back to the kampong, Felda, they are not against UMNO. And I think there's one factor which I must say, it is the feudal, religious feudal Malay style. Whereas Chinese don't have that tradition. We are very anti, you know. We're going as far as bad as the Red Guards of those years, last election. They fought the parents.
Okay, now coming back to what we talked about, BN's manifesto for the younger people, which are all like serious stuff to get you on track in your life, in your career, in building a family and so forth. What do you think about the opposition's offer to the young people, which is basically a populist approach? Things like offering and promising young voters free English Premier League football matches. Are you football fans? That's one of them. Free motorcycle licenses and free education, and the fact that they need not pay their PTN loans until their income reaches 4,000 ringgit. What's your comment? What's your viewpoint on that for a young person like Izana first?
So like I mentioned earlier, you really must analyze the content of what's being offered to you. What does the latter, what you've just described, sound like? They sound a lot like sweetness, not entirely candy, not entirely holistic. So, I mean, we're not here to, your vote is a secret, but the advice is to really be thorough when reading manifesto, when reading what's being offered, and really think long term, because especially the first-timers, because, I mean, I have a lot of colleagues who are quite excited. And this is the same advice I share. I say really think through, read through, what are you actually going to vote for? Because it will make a difference. Don't think that one vote doesn't matter. Your one vote is so heavyweight.
Do you view this as...
I don't think this is important. You compare both Apple, maybe American Apple, Australian Apple, no more meaning. It is what is being fought now on the battleground. Young people listen to Mahathir, listen to Najib Razak, what he say. This one dominates the voting, not these peanuts. These are important, but when they look at it...
These are actually candy you're talking about. These are short-term candy.
Correct. So now the voters' behavior most likely will be the hearing from Mahathir, ini get rid of Najib, save the country. Then the other one, you know, this bluffing. That will dominate. And I think that is most important now. Look at the gathering again, you know. Wah, ramai orang sana. Ini sikit, ini ramai. That will influence the behavior.
What's happening is that through all these videos and charamas, you're riling up the anger of the youth. Which is that really how you want your leaders to treat you? You want them to treat you like thinking beings, right? Being able to offer the right environment for you to grow in the next 10, 20 years. Not, oh, this is what's supposed to... You want stability is what you want at the end of the day, not angry people.
Yeah, however, the actual sin, you see when you vote, voter behavior, what determines their voting pattern? How they decide voting? 2 nights before voting and actual voting. What are the perception then? So the perception will be those played out by the parties. Not those black and white, the small thing already. So I'm arguing whether young voter or older, but there's one thing about young voters, being young, therefore higher aspiration. They want a big future, what you say, 10, 20 years. They got feeling. Like old men already want to don't worry about next 10 years. So question, young voters who say, I want to get rid of this fella because better time. Want to get rid of the other fella and catch out. You know, that I think is important for young people.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to have to go for another short break, but when we come back, we'll continue, and this time we'll touch on young leaders. Stay with us right here on Viewpoint. Right, welcome back to Viewpoint. Now this time around, in the run-up to the GE14, we're seeing a record of young candidates being fielded by both Barisan Nasional and the opposition coalition. The youngest is 22-year-old P. Prabhakaran, an independent, but now officially endorsed by PKR for the Batu parliamentary seat. Now our question to both our guests is this: why is it important to field young people?
I mean, that is your pelapis, right?
Okay.
Your succession plan right there.
Right. But how young, isn't 22 a little too young? Shouldn't we have a certain minimum age that one should reach? Because I would imagine at 22, you've not graduated yet.
If you have a minimum age, you might want to have a maximum age too.
True, true.
I think you want to look at two things. Firstly, someone who is young has that zest, that energy, that desire, fire, hope, like you said, Professor. You still have a lot of wisdom that I mentioned to you earlier. So a 22-year-old, that's interesting. That's the advantage that he has. But you also need experience to be able to lead your community, to be able to lead the country. So a little bit of experience, a little bit, I know sounds qualitative, but experience is also important.
Yeah, but at 22 to lead a constituency representing...
I don't agree.
The community, that's a little
Malaysia
young.
is a multiracial, plural society. You have different races, cultural differences, cultural sensitivity. We have young fellows who just open their mouth at the other group and never understand. The famous Superman
they don't have the social maturity. Is that what you're saying?
Not just social, the sensitivity. Ethnic sensitivity.
Yeah, they're unable... So what I meant by experience was the ability to be able to deal with the delicate fabric of our nature.
Correct, because there are so many different facets where you have to take into account.
It's not easy.
You can't, for example, come in and think, oh, because I have the desire, that's enough.
Yes.
You must run through experience. You must have gone through some failures in life to understand what it takes to build a better community and a nation.
Right. So my next question is, if you seem to agree with me that 22 is too young, what would be a good age? A young age, still young, but what would be a good age?
At least after graduation, 1 or 2 years in workplace, I think should be okay.
I'd ask for a little bit more work experience because even, I mean, you think about it, if someone's going for an MBA, the minimum they ask is a 3-year work experience.
Yes,
Why is that? Is because you need to be able to have some maturity. You need to be able to have dealt with people. You need to be able to have gone through some difficulty.
With some exposure to real life situations,
Precisely.
real people in situations where you solve problems.
Exactly.
By Singapore having their presidential conditions to be president, you must be incorporated with how many 100 million worth of asset. So that's why the other fellow was rejected, because he handled 100 over million, the other handled 500 million. So that's also important because being the president, you have to manage a whole country's asset. You sit in a GIC, which worth at least 200 billion Sing dollar. So question is, we can set conditions. We cannot be so free. We are too free for whatever reason.
Okay, I'm glad that both of you agree that 22 may be too young, and I think both of you agree to the fact that at least after graduation with maybe a couple of years experience working. But let's say we have candidates who have reached that point, okay? We would consider them with maturity, and these people are elected into public office. What kind of dynamism do you think that these young people can actually bring to the political landscape?
Well, certainly a lot of energy, new ideas. And now, as mentioned earlier, you are so connected to the world through your smartphone and the technology that we have. Young minds are a lot more open. I know Professor mentioned just now a bit too free, but maybe if we pull that back a little bit, maybe that freedom, that openness could be an asset. But I always mention this, whether on air or off air, it must be coupled with wisdom of experience that the elders have had for guidance, because you can't sort of have a cowboy.
That's an interesting word, wisdom. I was going to mention at what age you have wisdom, but no, I won't go into that. Yes, Prof.
At 6 years old, I started thinking about life already.
At how old, Professor?
6 years old.
That's why you're the professor.
I have not enough food to eat. So I'm talking about, it's a legislation process. You are MP, member of parliament. You are reading papers and tons of papers about a law. You don't have the basic, how are you going to make decision? So you go with the party. So therefore you're blind. Can you say that? So question, not just the age group, the sensitivity, there's so many other facets, of course. Once you're elected, you don't care. You get somebody who follow the boss, that's it. Party whip. So it's more than that. But I still believe, since we are free election democracy, we are free, everything, masuklah. You make sure you are elected, popularity. Popularity is a killing word. Popularity downgrade the democracy. That's how democracy works.
You know, I'm also very concerned about the fact that if you are a young person and you're elected into office, and this is the very first time, and then suddenly, wouldn't you think that when it's time to perform your duties, there could be a whole set of culture shock for these young people? I mean, I've never been in public office. If I were to go in public office, I would probably be surprised by how certain things are done as well. And wouldn't this be the same for young people?
Of course it would, but that's the same whenever you transfer laterally over a job. So in this new age, one of the skills that we need is actually the ability to be able to transfer problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills across, whether you are in a consultancy field, whether you are going into public office. So if, for example, let me quote you, you said that they will look at it completely differently, that could also be an asset, which is why actually both political parties have young candidates coming up. And if we don't have that, you end up in a case of an aging party.
Okay.
Where is the future in that?
All right. Now we're going to take a look at some of the young candidates who are actually taking part in GE this time around. For example, Ho Kwok Sing of BN is going against incumbent PKR's Tony Phua in Damansara. And we have PKR candidate Syed Sadiq Syed Abdul Rahman, a young chap, against incumbent BN's Datuk Razali Ibrahim. Ahmad Naufal Mahfudz in Pago parliamentary seat against incumbent Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. These are all young against the older. Looking at these three examples, what is the rationale of political parties in pitting such young and fresh candidates against such incumbent and experienced, and in some cases, some would say a huge political figure?
But then,
is
for example, this case just now with Muhyiddin,
right,
past feeling a young fella just to split the Malay votes, to make sure Muhyiddin lose, never intend to win. Like MCA putting somebody so young to fight Tony Phua, and there's 150,000 voters sick, urban, vocal. So this young man don't even know politics. How's going to win? So just put him, that's it. I know how they do it. So question is, the motive of the leader when they put the candidate there doesn't necessarily mean to win, a lot of times,
If I may add to that,
yes.
This is also what they call, so if, for example, these young candidates win, amazing, this is your entry into public life, this is your time to make a difference in your country. And if they do not win, this is their baptism of fire. To be able to get that experience at the age of whether 22, 26, whatever it is priceless. So perhaps they're being trained for the next general election. Who knows?
Yeah,
but there is
it's not just priceless, it's killing. Once shuttered, last election, many young women contested under MCA ticket, wiped out. You got not even 15% of the vote. Some year, nobody lose the deposit. You're finished, you're devastated. They just gave up. They can't wait another 5 years. So they're also very dangerous. The question is the timing, what is the atmosphere? Like today, you put young girls, the MCA put many young girls fighting DAP, for example, that is not so bad compared to last round. Last round literally send the goats to the tigers.
Okay, I think we're running out of time. I've just got one question for both of you. In your viewpoint, we've got several young candidates. Any come to mind that you think can win? Prof? Okay,
No
we got your
impression.
answer. Izana?
My vote's on Sharil.
Sharil?
Sharil Hamdan.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
All
a
right.
face. He's a face and a man to watch.
Okay. I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us on Viewpoint. It's been a very animated discussion.
Thank you so much.
I certainly enjoyed that one. All right.
Nice of you.
Thank you.
And we'd like to also thank all of you for joining us out here for Viewpoint. And join us again same time tomorrow. For more updates on GE14, do visit myundi.com.my. Until we see you again, I'm Raymond Goh. Thanks for joining us. Good night.